Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the deck that won the Italian Vault Tour. Now, I have commentated one game from each round of the Italian Vault Tour, including the final, and several of them actually had the winning deck featured. Obviously, the final was one of them. So, I'll link them in the description. Please do go check them out. But now, we're going to focus on the winning deck from Italy. It is a Brobnar Dish Shadows deck, Honk the Beneficially Topaz. And I tell you what, on the face of it, there's nothing that really jumps out here. Now, let's be clear. I am not saying this is a bad deck. I am saying that it doesn't have anything like Library Access Nepenthe, like Double Time Traveler. These things that we've seen in Vault Tour winning decks before, where we go, oh, yeah, that's ridiculous. But what it does is it's got 3 houses, and all 3 of those houses do what they're supposed to do. But they all actually jump in, helping some other stuff as well. Let me explain. So if we start off with Dis, I think Dis really does sum up this deck quite nicely. Dis is supposed to be the disruptive house, and it is an extremely disruptive house. One of the things I love in this deck that we don't see in a huge amount of decks, because it's a rare, is Annihilation Ritual. Annihilation Ritual basically is an artifact that says for both players, when a creature would enter a discard pile from play, it is instead purged. Cool. Now that can backfire on you, but one of the things it does is, I mean, let's say Dust Pixie, a creature we saw quite a lot of at the Italian Vault Tour. It's got a double amber bonus, but it's a 1-power creature, no elusive, none of that. Super easy to get rid of. But then that's not so bad, because these Untamed decks tend to use stuff like Regrowth. Yeah, not with this out. It goes down. We've got Control the Weak, which basically allows you to pick your opponent's house for them the following turn. Gongoozle deals 3 damage to a creature, and if it's not destroyed, you get to discard a random card from their hand. Tendrils of Pain that deals 1 damage to each creature, but 4 to each creature if your opponent forged a key last turn. Although, once again, this is each creature, not just your opponent's. Hysteria that returns each creature to its opponent's hand. Alright, look out for stuff like the aforementioned Dust Pixie that are great when you play them. Other than that, you can wipe your opponent's board, though again, it is 2-sided. Poltergeist, you use one of your opponent's artifacts and then destroy it. That's quite hilarious. So it's kind of disruptive. It's very disruptive. But there's also some amber generation in the case of Dust Imp. Dust Imp, when it's destroyed, gains you 2 amber. Incidentally, great combo here with Tendrils of Pain. So actually, even though you're going for this, and even though it's disruptive, which it is, we've got some amber racing here. And then we've got some really good amber denial. So there's 1 copy of Pit Demon. You get to steal an amber as an action, which is lovely. And then 3 copies of Shula when you play it. If your opponent has 4 amber or more, you get to steal 1. And yes, great combo here with Hysteria. So we're expecting this to be disruptive, and it is. But within this, we've also got a fair bit of stealing and some amber generation, which is really good. Now, if we move on to Shadows, we're expecting a bunch of stealing, and we're not disappointed. There is a bunch of stealing. There is Bait and Switch, although do remember we are post-errata now, so you can only steal a maximum 2. We've got Ghostly Hand, gives you 2 amber, and if your opponent has exactly 1, you steal it. We've got Finishing Blow that destroys a damaged creature, and if you do, you get to steal an amber. We've got Nerve Blast, 2 copies, that steal an amber, and if so, deal 2 damage to a creature. And then we've got Magda the Rat. When you play it, you steal 2 amber, though when it's destroyed or when it leaves play, your opponent steals 2 amber. So especially with stuff like Tendrils of Pain and Hysteria, you do need to be a little bit careful with this. This could backfire. 2 Noddy the Thief that have an action to steal an amber, and an Urchin that steals an amber when it's played. Frankly, lots and lots of stealing, but there's a couple other things going on here. We've got Hidden Stash that lets you archive a card. Not the kind of thing we would usually expect. It's not something we often see in the Shadows decks. It isn't uncommon, it just doesn't tend to make its way into the most successful Shadows decks. But archiving is good. Archiving lets you stash a card in your archive, and then at the beginning of the turn you can pick up your archives or not. Do remember, it is all of your archive or none of their archives. But you can stash a card like Tendrils of Pain for when they have just forged a key. We've then got Special Delivery that lets you sacrifice, well, the artifact whenever you want to. It's got an Omni ability, so regardless of your active house. And then deal 3 damage to a flank creature, purging it if it's destroyed. Although remember that Annihilation Ritual also allows you to purge. Yeah, there's quite a lot of purging going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Though this is just purging your opponent's creatures, not your own, so arguably better, though less far-reaching. And then the ridiculously specific Imperial Traitor. Imperial Traitor, when you play it, you may look at your opponent's hand and purge a Sanctum card in it. Now, you're not always going to be playing against a whole bunch of Sanctum cards, but we did see a couple of Alesto's games, he was the chap who won the Vault Tour, on stream where he was playing against Sanctum, which is so good. And the great thing about this card is, even if you're not against a Sanctum deck, and, well, over half the time you shouldn't be, you still get to look at their hand. So okay, Shadows doesn't have quite as much extra stuff going on, but there's still a couple other little tricks. And then we get to Brobnar. And Brobnar is supposed to be the fighty house. And there's a lot of fighting going on. Coward's End destroys each undamaged creature, gains 3 chains, which is bad, but, you know, it's not the end of the world. We've got Follow the Leader for the remainder of the turn. Each friendly creature may fight. Yes, that does include non-Brobnar creatures. No, that does not include exhausted creatures. It says may fight, not ready and fight. So any Brobnar creatures you've just played down can fight this turn, except they're exhausted, and exhausted creatures aren't allowed to fight. Boo, hiss, etc. We've got Ganger Chieftain. When you play it, ready and fight with a neighbouring creature. Well, gee whiz. That's quite a lot of fighting. We've got Smash, that when you play it, you get to stun a creature. That's quite nice. And we've got Blood of Titans, which gives one of your Brobnar creatures +5 power. But this is where we get to the extra stuff. Brobnar is a house of smashing. Smash, as the creature might say. But this does so much more. For instance, we've got Burn the Stockpile. If your opponent has 7 amber or more, they lose 4. If you can catch them with 7, I will actually put them down to 3, and that will be amazing. But you can catch them with 9, and they still won't be able to forge, so that's pretty good. We've got Loot the Bodies. Gain 1 amber each time an enemy creature is destroyed. We did see in one of his rounds, Alesto comboed Loot the Bodies with Coward's End. Ladies and gentlemen, it was glorious. It was wonderful. He got so much amber. We've got Smith. Gain 2 amber if you control more creatures than your opponent, and it gives you an amber bonus. We've got the War Chest. Gain 1 amber for each enemy creature destroyed in a fight this turn. That is destroyed in a fight, so you don't unfortunately get the combo with Coward's End. And then you got Lomir Flame Fist. If your opponent has 7 amber or more, they lose 2. So even though it's Brobnar, and even though they're here for smashing, and even though they do the smashing well, you've got Burn the Stockpile and Lomir Flame Fist, which are really good at getting rid of your opponent's amber. And then you've got Loot the Bodies, Smith, the War Chest, all of which are really good at gaining you amber. And I think that's what makes this deck so gosh darn good. It's got Shadows that steals, Disc that disrupts, and Brobnar that fights. All the things you would expect. But Brobnar can actually gain lots of amber and stop them forging. And Disc can gain amber and stop them forging. And Shadow's got a couple little tricks. Which means even though all the decks do what all the decks are supposed to do, you've actually got the houses going further than they should. And I think that's the real difference here that makes it so much better. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a phenomenal deck, and I, for one, am not terribly surprised it won a Vault Tour. It's a really good deck. But I'd like to know what you think about the deck, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @Wossy, where we talk about games like Keyforge and a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.